Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Travelers podcast. My name is Logic Mage.
I'm Super QGS.
I'm Rambler.
This is a very special episode. We're filming this live in beautiful Pennsylvania. What do you guys think?
It's definitely very weird to not have you guys on Discord, I'll say that.
It's surreal, but I feel like it hasn't been as weird as I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I felt like there would be a very big disconnect. Like, I've known these guys for 2 years and I've always interacted with them through Discord.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually kind of felt a lot more natural than I was kind of worrying about than I anticipated.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost felt like, seeing old friends that you haven't interacted with in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
That first night you were here, I had been texting Rex a bit, and Rex was like, oh, it must be weird for you to be there with Logic, and I realized it didn't at all. It had only been like a couple hours, and I was like, it felt perfectly normal.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed my time here so far. And actually, this is my very first time in the U.S., so that's its own experience.
Welcome to freedom.
Welcome to freedom.
But currently, it is July 18th of 2022.
Right. Tomorrow we'll all be heading back to our homes. And we just wanted to take some time to record our first podcast in a long, long time. Our last release was in September 11th of 2021. And we just wanted to take some time to look back on both the game, the podcast, and almost everything surrounding it, because it's just been... there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of events happening surrounding Truga recent projects. We thought it'd be a good time.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Brimley? Sorry for interrupting you if I did. Okay. Even in person, we can't.
No, it really wouldn't be the Travelers podcast without a lot of awkward interruptions, so.
It happens. Who knows if this will even be kept in. Let's see. Do we touch on the elephant in the room first?
Oh, yeah, let's touch on the elephant in the room first. The Travelers miniseries. I really hope that's what you were talking about.
That is what I was talking about.
Travelers miniseries, not our last podcast, but 2 podcasts ago, we teased an animated miniseries while Truga was on the podcast, and since then, there has been pretty much little to no communication to the public, and the reason being it is currently on hiatus.
We have done a lot more work since showing that initial animatic, but we got busy basically, and we're kind of like, we're putting on a hiatus right now, but it is something that we would really, really like to get back to at some point. However, I've made a promise to Bram that once we get back to it, we are finishing it or we are not doing it anymore. So hopefully once we start development again, it won't be something that's like starts and stops. Once we're ready, we will push forward and get it completely done. But it is still something that I personally would really, really like to see come to fruition, because what we have, I can't say a lot, but it's pretty cool.
I've put some thought towards various like storylines and characters over hiatus, and I think I have a few cool ideas that I haven't even, shared with any of you guys yet. But so it's definitely still on my mind. I think some part of it always will be in my mind. It was a very special story to me. So hopefully we can do something with it.
I wasn't overly active in developing it when it was being actively worked on, but I can say, as someone who has access to some of the behind-the-scenes footage and scripts, it is looking to be a very promising project if we can get it off the ground. So I am very excited about it if it actually does come to fruition.
Coherent Nonsense is an absolute legend. Like, I won't say too much, but he'll just like drop amazing things in the Discord and blow all of our minds. If we can make this happen, it's going to be something really cool.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So guys, some important dates. I think these are interesting to look back on. So believe it or not, it has been well over a year since the game has been beaten. The puzzle was solved on April 22nd, 2021. What do you think about that?
It's definitely very weird, because I still, remember it like it was yesterday, almost, because I remember we were just about to head off a call because we thought we hit another dud. And all of a sudden we had the whole game beaten. There were like 15 people in the Discord call within like 5 minutes. It was
Yeah, it almost looked like game launch where it was you had like 20 people all piled into
Yeah.
a stream watching what was happening just because we were all so like absorbed and fascinated by it. It was really cool.
yeah. I don't think I quite was like processing at first because it just it was
Yeah.
very something.
Solving the travelers and just the whole process. The how many years did it take us to solve? Like about 1 year.
A little under a year. Yep.
It was probably my personal favorite gaming or just online experience in general. It was such an amazing experience, and to play a part in that is something that I'm forever glad that I was able to do and participate in.
The Travelers is interesting to me, and I've said this before, but I think it's worth reiterating that I don't think The Travelers as a game is like revolutionary or fantastic. But I do agree that it is one of the best online experiences I've ever had, at least in terms of like multiplayer and communication.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've met a lot of really cool people through it. But not only that, it also just provided the game experience of being able to work together towards like a common goal. It's not often you find a lot of games that are like willing to commit to the premise of like a long-term story that you have to work together on.
I was actually talking to my grandfather because I was, going on this trip, and he was like wanting to know more about, who I was going with and what all this was about. And when I kind of told him about the Travelers, he explained that his dad, my great grandfather, he would always play like he would get a bunch of TV trays and set them up in the living room, like 5 of them, and each one would have a chessboard on it. And he would have friends from around the world that he would send letters to, which would be like, knight to a4 or whatever. I don't know if that would be an actually good chess move. Meebcom or Trogadid is going to probably say whatever in the comments, but he would be playing these like, very long-term chess games. It would take months or just ages to just complete one game because you'd get a letter, do one move, think for a bit, and then send your next move. And I think what makes the Travelers special is it kind of creates that long-term anticipation. Like a lot of games and stuff today, like they have fast travel and they have, a lot of things that make it go very fast so you can see the new content quickly, and there's not room to discuss things and think about things and stew on things. The Travelers has a very real physicalness to it where your character is in a certain spot and it is going to take you time to move to another spot, and there's not much you can do to speed that up. You can do things to speed it up, but you can't break that. Ultimately, it is going to take multiple days to get to a certain. There's a speed limit, and I think a community surrounding that limit is what made the Travelers so special.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting to take an MMO, and maybe this is silly to point out because it's very fundamental to the whole concept of the game. But I just think it's interesting that Toro was willing to take a bet on combining the whole MMO genre with something a lot more slow paced. I think you said he was inspired by a lot of clicker games, like A Dark Room especially.
Yeah.
Played a large influence. Not just the gameplay of that game, but also like the aesthetics and style were more or less lifted from there. I think it's interesting. Now that we're in person, we can see when Bram has nothing to say.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Travelers Con. We first started playing Travelers Con potentially earlier than this. The date we have written down is when we created the actual Discord to plan this formally. But the creation of the Travelers Con Discord is dated as July 19th, 2021. So as of tomorrow, it will be exactly 1 year.
By the time this is posted, it will probably be over a year since Travelers Con, the Discord, was initially planned. And we've kind of thrown around, I think Travelers Con was originally thrown around as a joke, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we've mentioned it as far back as 2020. But then it kind of, as we joked about it, it kind of was like, well, maybe we could actually do something like this.
Yeah, no, we were kind of joking about it, and I think me and Rex started making a giant list of like dumb stuff to do at Travelers Con. I think that was like where it kind of started becoming like a running thing. We were like, oh yeah, we got to do this at Travelers Con. highly illegal usually, but
I still want that list to be released to the public.
If I recall, it was just stuff like break into a Starbucks or something. It's stuff along those lines. You can kind of draw it up from
The
there.
lawnmower race.
Yeah, the
all
lawnmower
that
race.
stuff.
We still got to do that.
I'll post some snippets of it for the podcast. Get a little taste. But yeah, no, it's been a running theme for quite a while, and obviously it did end up happening. So that's cool.
It is really cool.
The people that were able to make it were the three of us on the call right now: Super QGS, Logic Mage, Bramblery. I guess, do you want to talk about kind of what our Travelers Con experience has been so far?
Yeah, sure. So we originally, I think it's worth mentioning, we wanted to get some other people on here, but some dates just didn't work out. Some people wanted to come but couldn't. I'm still really happy that even just the three of us were able to meet together.
Yeah.
I think that's been a really cool experience. But yeah, this, like I said, this has been my first experience in the U.S. So, it's not all that different from Canada, I find, but it's been really cool just to be able to say, I've experienced it. I've been in a region that's like not within my immediate, safety bubble. It's cool. It's very different.
How much can we say about like where we are?
We are currently living it up in urban Pennsylvania. It's been really great.
We've had plenty to do. Went out to a few different museums. We did
Let's start at the beginning. Let's say you guys talk about the first day that you were here, because I arrived a day later than you guys.
Oh, that's right. I got here before you. So I actually arrived on the 16th. So that would have been 2 days ago as of recording this. And if you want to drive from Ontario down to Pennsylvania, it's going to be about 8 or 9 hours. So I got up at around maybe 10 o'clock. And then I just spent a little bit of time getting ready. And then finally at around, it would have been 11 or 12, we actually started driving. And then by the time it was 9 o'clock at night, we finally arrived at Ram's place. And then by that point, it was very dimly lit. It wasn't very easy to navigate around. And there was definitely some, I mean, he doesn't live in a terrible area, but there's definitely some kind of seedy looking people walking around. So that made it a little nerve wracking. But I ended up arriving fine. And I got seated and settled in.
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Logic. I mentioned it to Super. I was laying on my kitchen floor with my cat.
Yeah. I think I recall you mentioning that.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure when you were getting here. I figured you called a little bit before.
Yeah.
But you hadn't, and then suddenly I heard a knock on the door, so I had to shoot up off the ground real quick, and I was...
Yeah. I'm sorry that I caused you that kind of panic. In my defense, it turns out my phone plan was only national. It doesn't actually cover anywhere outside of Canada's borders. So I was kind of out of luck when it came to that. I did try to call you when I could, but yeah, up until the last hour or so, there's just no way I was going to be able to contact you.
Yeah. No, I mean, it made it a little bit more exciting, I had no idea when you were
Yeah, I'm sure it
coming
did.
here. Yeah, and then once Logic got here, we just settled in a bit.
Yep.
What did we play the first night? We played some games.
We played some GameCube games. I can't recall which right now. I think there would have been dang man. I can't quite recall. I think we played some Brawl. We tried to get Melee to work, but the disc was scratched or something. We couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, some other just some sort of GameCube stuff. Graham has a lot of games.
I do.
He had way more than I was expecting. So that was cool.
No, it's funny because the Melee disc was working fine the last time anyone in my family had touched it, because I asked around after it was broken, and they were like, yeah, we don't remember it being broken, so I'm gonna blame it on Logic.
Yeah, it was not my fault.
You owe me a copy of Super Sonic.
It's like $100 now.
Oh no.
I think we just played some games, headed off to bed.
Yeah, it was pretty late by the time I got there, so I was tired from the drive, so just wasn't much to do.
And Super showed up the next day, which was a
did.
surprise to me. He tells me Saturday that he's coming Sunday. He had originally told me Monday.
I don't know exactly where the miscommunication happened.
I'm confused too, because you didn't tell me You didn't
I'm
tell Logic
sorry.
because I asked Logic. I asked Rex if you had mentioned it to him as well, and you hadn't.
I
So you
think
didn't mention it to anyone deeply
I
involved with
must have
planning
been
it.
like super duper like I must have had like a lot on my plate the week I figured that out and assumed I had communicated that. I'm so sorry. Luckily, it turned out to be fine,
Yeah, it
but
all worked out in the end.
so then I guess the day after I told him the new schedule of when I was free, I showed up at his door the next morning. I brought them as I had been promising them for a few weeks, but I didn't tell them what it was. I brought them the food of my people, which is, I guess I can say, I'm gonna this is a lightning W docs right now. A great St. Louis tradition is bread sliced bagels. If you go to if you order bagels in like a lot of places in St. Louis, they will ask you, "Would you like that bread sliced?" Um, and it completely changes the vibe of the bagel. Like you can share it with your friends now. It's the ideal
I,
way to consume
I can
bagels.
confirm I've now consumed bread sliced bagels, and my entire viewpoint on the art of bagels has changed.
It's true. I should probably explain what bread sliced bagels are. Welcome back to the Bread Sliced Bagel podcast. So you know how normally bagels are kind of like cut in half, like horizontally? Well, they throw the bagel into a bread slicer instead of doing that, and they make it into a bunch of slices vertically. So you have like a bunch of slices of a bagel, and it's pretty great. They did not know what I was talking about when I ordered them, um, and I was not used to that because normally you order a bagel and like they're like, "Do you want that bread slice?" And you say, "Of course. Why would I not want it bread sliced?" But then they were like, "What do you mean put it in the bread slicer? Let me ask my manager about that." And I'm like, "Come on, bro. What are you doing?" No, but the person that got us our bagels was very nice and they bread sliced my bagels and I brought them. What did you think of bread sliced bagels, Brimbley?
I very much enjoyed it. It was definitely a very, very different vibe.
I don't know why the concept of bread sliced bagels is so funny to me. I feel like I know like a fair amount of traditional American practices, but I've never ever heard of bread sliced bagels. This is my first experience with it.
No one's heard of bread sliced bagels outside of like maybe my state. Some people in my state know. I've went to other places in my state and they knew they don't like ask you if you would like it bread sliced, but like if you ask them to bread slice, they'll do it. Um, but it's not like a common national thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I definitely do appreciate it. I might have to, get a few managers called, to consume it again.
Yeah,
Well,
call some people.
I
call
mean,
some
get
people, make it
support your
happen.
bread sliced bagels near you.
Exactly.
Um, No, so yeah, I showed up. My dad helped me drive over there. Because I was actually staying for another family event that was also in Pennsylvania, so it ended up not being a super far drive. From that, so like it was a far drive to that, but then it ended up being pretty convenient for me because then it was just like another couple hours to go to Bramblery's house. But yeah, I showed up at the door, got all my stuff, went inside and it was kind of surreal like because I'd known what both of them looked like for a while at that point, but like interacting with another human like instead of like Bramberly was the one that said like you're not real, you're a silly voice in my computer.
Yeah, no,
And
it's hard to conceptualize
yeah,
Super QGS as a person.
it wasn't like awkward, but it was surreal. That's how I would describe it. And also I'm much taller than Bramblery and much shorter than Logic Mage than I thought I would be. So
So, funnily enough, Super has 7 inches on me, and then Logic has 7 inches on Super. So we have
we're a
that
staircase.
nice gap.
Yeah.
I've been scared for a long time because Bramblery's cat does not like tall people. And I was told that Bramblery's cat would not like me because of how tall I was. And I really like cats and I really like making good impressions on cats, so that was not good news. But me and Jenna are best buds despite all the odds, and I'm just
Yeah, I was very surprised she took so well to you because when you mentioned her seeming a little freaked out, but she let you like be near her. And I walked upstairs the next time you two were together. She seemed perfectly fine. So
yeah.
I don't know if she ever did take the Logic
She has let me pet her. Although the first time she saw me, she like freaking darted away. Like I've never seen a cat run that fast. It was absurd. Um,
Especially because she has 3 legs.
yeah, that's she's at a disadvantage too. You know what the first thing that occurred to me was that really struck me as strange when I came in here was that I know a lot of people seem to assume that the whole print moment joke is just that it's a facade, it's a gag. But no, if you go to Bradley's house, there are in fact papers with the print moments
We're
hung up above his monitor.
we're like right under them currently. Shall we read off the official Bramblery household print moments?
Yeah, sure. I mean, right off the bat, we got Society of Shell.
That's the classic
I was
one.
about to say
Flippy
it's
Ice
classic.
Hero.
It really is.
You can't have a print moment wall without this one. This is
No.
kind of the one that you do need to have a print
This
moment
is
wall.
the core print memory.
For sure.
Next you have, of course, Lightning WB saying, "Why do we need a bot?"
Which is the funniest statement I've ever heard Lightning express. I don't even remember the context, but the second he said it, I screenshot it and I printed it immediately.
That's true. And then we have Rex with the famous quote, "Bram's laughing at me for thinking I look like a rat and he won't stop."
It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, or yeah, it was like 1, 2 in the morning, and I was just losing it over Rex saying that they look like a rat. And it was even funnier to me at this point because I didn't even know what Rex looked like at that point. I'm just on the ground dying. And then once I kind of got explained uh, why Rex thought they looked like a rat, I think that's the night we formed Rat Gang, or probably within the next few days.
That's fair enough. And then I can't read that one because of where I'm sitting, but
Well, I'll give it a read. This is really the one that caps it all off, in my opinion. This final one's by Truga Dude, and he says, "Hot take: print moment was never funny."
and I think that's really the only way you can end a print moment wall. That's where honestly there haven't been that many print moments since Trugadude has said that.
Yeah.
So
The joke, begins, it lives, and it dies. It's a full complete cycle.
it is. And Trugadude is the end of that cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I think there was a pretty significant gap in between the rat one and Truga Dudes. I wasn't planning to do anymore, but the second he said that, I knew it had to be slapped up onto the wall.
It's the final chapter. It's just the perfect capstone to end the print moment wall.
It's my favorite wall.
What is
in the
this
house.
segment?
This is stupid. Just cut the whole thing out. All right, so let's just yeah, it's cool and all that we're here, but let's just talk about a little bit about what we've actually done since getting together.
First off, we went to Science Museum. It was pretty fun. It had a whole bunch of exhibits. It was interactive. We got to
It
do a whole bunch
did.
of things.
Yeah, it had a planetarium too, which is really cool because you got to see a big presentation about like space and stuff. And I know there was some other shows that we couldn't quite
Yeah.
catch, but that was one we saw.
It was really, really cool to see. And then we kind of walked around the city a little bit. We went to a pizza place that was really good, and I drank a lot of water there.
And that
I-
was the beginning of the end.
And I don't know why I was thinking like that we would go straight home after that. But we wanted to walk around a little bit more, so I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah.
probably fine. We decided we wanted to go to an art museum. So we started walking there. We were like pretty much almost all the way there because it was kind of close by, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And so we get there, and we find out that it would only be open for like 30 more minutes, or like an hour to like 30 minutes to an hour.
And the tickets were like $30 or $40. I'm like, nah, no way.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not paying like $1 a minute to look at art. Like, I've got an art museum in St. Louis. It's fine. It's free there too. So I'm like, I'm just saying. Support your local bread slice bagels. No, so but we're like, okay, well, let's check it out. We'll check out the outside. It'll be pretty cool. But then I'm like, guys, I really have to go to the bathroom. I have drank so much water. And they're like, you should have gone at the pizza place where you
Dude was
got
like,
all the
I
water.
know.
And I'm like, I realized that I've made my mistake, but come on, we gotta find this.
So
So
we wanted to go into the art museum to get into the bathroom, right? But the entrance we were coming up on was closed.
it was, and so we're like, okay, well, there's gotta be like it was like saying go around to the other side of the building, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. We're like looking around, like we take a path, and it like went back to where we were, and it was like we couldn't find it. I also decided to wear like jeans or like long pants, which was a really big mistake. So I'm sweating. I have to go.
You,
It's
you
really
you
hot
really
outside.
weren't dressed properly for
I was
this.
not dressed properly, but I looked fire because I had this whole outfit with my Travelers merch that I made like years ago. It was pretty sick. I had to wear it to Travelers Con. But so we're going around. We're like, okay, we're gonna go to this side of the building. So finally we get there. We go inside, and I'm like, hey guys, like I really, really need to go to the bathroom. And I was hoping that there would be like a bathroom before the ticket like line.
Yeah, because the
But
Science
they're
Center
like,
had one.
yeah, exactly. So, but then they were like, "Oh, you need a ticket," and I'm like, "Dude, tickets cost $30. What are you doing?" I should have been more assertive. I'm sure if I was more assertive, they would have been like, "Okay, yeah, you just go. We'll like." I'm sure I would have been able to do it, but I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I guess I'll go somewhere else."
Like they're probably paid minimum wage. Like those would be like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever. I don't
like
want
they're
to deal
just
with this.
doing
I
their
don't want to deal
job.
with
Like
this
I
shit
don't want
in
to
the
like
bathroom.
make their job harder.
Yeah.
And I also thought like, okay, maybe I can find something else before like making this person like you know, escort me to the restroom instead of doing their actual job. Like
Yeah.
but they're like, oh, like see that hill, and there's like this big hill. They're like there's a porta potty down there, and I'm like, and they said it was being used by the construction people, but I might be able to use it, so I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I walk all the way down this hill. Bram and Logic are just so disappointed in me behind me. They're like, bro, you should have gone to the pizza place. Um, but I get there and I'm like, guys, it's fine. There's a porta potty. I get there and the porta potty is locked, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So,
At this point, you started floating the idea of heading into the bushes.
well, I'd done that before this point, but yeah, now I was seriously considering like just going into the bushes because I had tried two bathroom spots and neither of them had worked. We kept walking further and further, trying to find something. And now like there were no buildings. I find this like
It was
where
a
was it?
restaurant, right?
It was a restaurant, and out by the front of it there was it was like a truck, and it had like an like out like a bathroom like on the truck. It was kind of weird, but like there was like a stick figure man and woman. So I'm like, okay, this is my ticket. Let's go. I go there. It is locked. And I'm like, okay, well, let's check out the restaurant. And I go and I'm like, hey, excuse me, I really need to go to the bathroom. And they're like, no, go away. They told me to go away. And they said that we don't have a publicly available
I
one.
mean, bear in mind that during all this, it's very, very hot as well. It's
Yeah.
like,
It was like
it's probably
90
over
degrees.
90.
We're
Yeah.
like running around. I'm not doing good. We find another place that has bathrooms that I see people going in and out of and using, and then I'm like, hey, can I please like? And also, this was for like it looked like an alcohol party, like
It was definitely an alcohol.
Like,
It was like
an
a.
alcohol like event, like you know you go around to different booths, try alcohol and stuff like
Right.
that. I'm not even 21, so like it's not like I'm gonna be a potential customer anyway. And I ask, and I'm like, hey, I really, really need to use the bathroom, and he's like, it's for paying customers only, and then I'm like, oh my
You
gosh.
just need to say pretty please.
He did tell us where the public bathroom.
That's
He
right.
told us where the public
He
bathroom
was at least helpful in that way.
So we went over there, and I finally went to the bathroom, and it was fantastic. And I hope you enjoyed this story.
It took us 40 minutes from when you first mentioned needing to go to the bathroom.
It would have been
getting you to the
faster to
bathroom.
take an Uber to your house than it took us to walk around the world to find that bathroom. Okay, I hate bathrooms you have to pay for. They're the worst invention. Terrible public infrastructure. Anyway,
It's funny you say that because have you ever been to Europe, Super?
I have never been to Europe.
It's kind of not really a thing over here so much, but paid toilets are just everywhere
That's
in
the worst.
Netherlands and Belgium especially. There are public washrooms, but almost all of them require that you pay to use them, which I thought was interesting.
That is interesting and sounds horrible. How much does it cost though? Because like,
I don't know.
I'd imagine
like
it's
$1 or
cheap.
$2.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
imagine it's like the upkeep of them.
Probably.
You know what's
Probably.
super weird too? I remember seeing one in like it's like a really urbanized area, and there's just like I see it like it's like a tower almost, and there's like three of these like slots that are like located in the cylinder, and you put like one or two coins in the machine, and it like lets it open, and then you actually just like step in. But this is like a full like building that's just dedicated to like it's like a pay toilet. It's super
Interesting.
strange. Anyway, this isn't rad at all.
I don't know. I don't know if people tune into the Travelers podcast to listen to about
This is what
No,
I
public
think.
This is why-
restroom infrastructure.
This is why everyone.
This
listens
is
to
what
the
they come for. This is what our dedicated viewers want to hear. Okay, the truth. That's what they want. Support your local bread slice bagels.
show. There were some other locations we visited both yesterday and today, although they are pretty region specific. So just for the Bram's own personal safety, we're not going to talk about them.
We don't
but
want Lightning to show up at his door.
yeah,
And
like
we did go out to a little park. It was
we did. There were some parks. One we did today was an escape room. Where Super messed up one of the puzzles, and then that lost.
Oh my! Well, I don't want to talk about that. But
that
the guy made me annoyed.
it was mostly the guy's fault. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
He was being pretty. Well, whatever.
We
don't
also
need to
went to
dwell on
this. I can't talk too much about it because it's super region specific. But we went on this tour of this really cool place, and it was historic. And I wish I could talk about it more because it was really, really cool.
Yeah. I think that was the highlight of this whole trip for me. Was
Honestly,
that area.
yeah, that was.
That was really cool. I got to see it all in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a cool. It was an old institute, we'll say.
Yeah. Let's see. What else did we do? Oh, we went to today. We went to Ampersand Pizza.
and
We were just looking around for a place to eat. We wanted pizza, and we thought it was like a bug on our thing, but it was like a whole pizza place. I guess it's a chain that I've never been to before.
Yep, I've never even heard of it before.
The logo looked a lot like the Travelers logo, so we thought it would be funny to go there. And the pizza was pretty good.
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Point is, we at Travelers Con we ate at a Travelers themed restaurant. And I thought it was
Exactly.
pretty funny. Other than that, we've hung out at Bram's house. I slept on his couch. It was pretty cool.
Played some games together. We just finished around a Mario Party that everyone hated.
Everyone hated. Great time.
I had a good
actually.
time up until the very end.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a little frustrating for. I mean, I think it was a little frustrating at points for all of us, but yeah, it was
As
fun.
Mario
I enjoyed
Party
playing it.
should be.
Yeah, it was Super's first game. He
That's true.
experienced getting Mario Party.
Yeah, I won until the bonus stars.
I
so
snatched victory from Joel's defeat.
it was
That
really
big.
upsetting, actually.
I think it was great.
Travelers Con was a pretty cool experience. I'm really glad that.
We
got to have it.
didn't mention the VR.
Oh
That's
my
right.
gosh!
We didn't.
I hate Five Nights at Freddy's.
So we were on the way back on the first day, and then Bram was like, "Oh no, it was Super." He was like, "Yo, Logic, do you want to try out the Bram's Oculus?" I was like, "Dang man, that sounds pretty cool." Because my only experience to VR is relegated to Google's I don't know what the name for it is. I keep calling it
The Google
the cardboard
Cardboard.
thing.
I'm sorry
Is
for
that what it is?
offering up your.
It's
Oculus
Google
for
Cardboard. Yeah, and that was super old. I don't know when I tried it out first, but it would have been like I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I never had a formal VR gaming experience because that stuff's like virtual roller coasters and stuff. I'm talking about like a full game that you can control with your hands and whatever. So my first experience with Half-Life Alyx, and that really freaked me out. But funny enough, our first conversation about games to play involved FNAF, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to try that, but maybe Alex is a bit of a better primer. And I'm very glad that I did that first because FNAF definitely got to me a little bit.
Yeah, Alex is fun. It's a little bit more relaxing, but you get to see so many cool things right off the
Alex
bat.
is a great game. I don't know if we want to talk too much about that, but I really enjoyed the limited time I had with it.
Yeah.
I'd like to try it again someday. And then FNAF was really spooky, but yeah, if you're familiar with that game, I'm sure you're aware of why.
Yeah, so Super freaked out.
Super.
I didn't even get to see an animatronic. I dipped out before that point. I'm trying to get into horror games, but I'm still very, very scared of them. So maybe we'll try again later. I don't know.
Then Logic gave it a crack. He got through the first night.
It did.
On the second try. When Logic got killed in game, he definitely freaked out. But somehow Super was more freaked out by the jump scare that he could only see on the computer screen and he could barely hear through the Oculus set.
Oh, I don't like that at all. I really don't like that. It's making a noise.
What the fuck was that? I'm scared of me. What was that?
She got in the room.
Did I? Oh.
You must have missed it
Did I miss
coming.
that? Like, I thought they were still in the room. I saw like the apron or whatever. I mean,
It was only Freddy left on the stage. Bonnie and Chica were off. For, like...
okay, all right. One more try. One more try. I mean, I gotta be the first night. Like, come on. That's scary so.
You got. I think Super's more scared than you are.
Okay, I'll keep more active watching.
This is everything wrong with capitalism.
Yeah, and then I took over. They were
And they-
apparently.
Bram is definitely a lot better at
He's
FNAF than
pretty
either of
good.
us. So.
I would have cried sobbing on the floor if
I couldn't like see for half of it because like I couldn't get the headset.
Oh yeah, that was a big problem too. Is it? How old is that headset actually?
It's not that old. It's normally not that finicky. I swear to God, you guys broke everything in my house. It took me 3 hours just to get the Oculus running. Like, no, I wasn't sitting there like the full 3 hours just staring at it.
No,
Like,
we were like doing other stuff in the background, but yeah, you were trying to get that thing as well.
last time I touched it, I just plugged it in and it worked. And
Those things
this
are just
time-
finicky, I guess. I've always heard there's problems with Oculus headsets, especially just with all the setup and compatibility issues.
Yeah,
I
no, I did software updates on both the headset and my computer. I like plugged and unplugged the cord like 15 times. It was a whole process.
Yeah. So that's kind of been our overall Travelers Con experience. And honestly, I'm very glad that I was able to meet you guys in person.
Yeah.
It's been really, really cool, I guess. It's been very enriching.
It's something I've wanted to do for a really, really long time.
For
It's
sure.
something I like, I don't know. I never thought I would have, like, when I, went to the monument the first time and decided, okay, do I keep playing or do I stop here?
Yeah.
That 2 years later I would be in Pennsylvania, across the country.
It's like that meme where the guy like topples over the dominoes
Yeah.
and keep getting bigger and bigger. It's, the first domino is like checking out what Truga Dude is up to after he quit YouTube.
Yeah,
which,
no.
The 2020 April Fool's stream, I think, is where I found out about it.
I don't know if it was that stream or the one. It might have been that one because he actually had the link to his game in one of the streams he did like post retirement where he was like, I think it would have been. No, it wasn't April Fool's. It was like the.
You were there
anniversary.
earlier because
I was a little older than you, so I'm not sure if it was the same video or not. But yeah.
I just know for me, I think I was involved with Travelers, like, I think literally, like, day one
Oh
of
yeah,
it being
you were
public.
involved. You were involved with the game even before there was like a formal Discord for it. It was,
Yeah, no, I kept up with the Truga Dude Discord, and it was, at that point, I had, like, I was still playing 2v2t at the time, which awful server, don't join it, if you're thinking about it. But at the time, I think I had like left most 2v2t Discords, and I remember debating leaving Truga Dude's Discord. I was like, I don't know, he's not really doing anything, and I don't know if I would have like stumbled across it if I had left the Discord, because I probably would have I'm gonna be honest, Truga Dude, if you're listening, I considered unsubscribing at some point because you weren't really posting
way.
anything either.
I don't believe it.
And, like, no shade, I thought your stuff was good, but again, you weren't posting anything, so I easily could have missed everything. And I just remember the reason I did stick with the Travelers, it was just, I want to see a game get developed from start to finish.
Yeah.
I always hear these, like, cool stories, it was like Dead by Daylight, which I play, of people playing back when it first came out, when it was buggy, and it was fun, and it was just, a mess, and I kind of wanted to be there for a mess, I wanted to see something turn from a mess into a well-developed game, and I think I saw that, so I at least got that, and then, plenty more.
It was a similar situation with me, I think. I was just kind of looking forward to something that was actually produced by Truga Dude again, because I always really enjoyed the style of his videos. I thought he had a good general sense of aesthetic and presentation. And I wanted to see how that would transfer over to a full game developed by him. And I think I'm very glad with how the final result panned out. And I'm definitely glad that I ended up joining Discord, obviously, because it's led up to this moment. And I think that's really cool.
I really think that there's so many like people that made up the community that completely changed the course of it. Like if Brambo Lee, wasn't part of the Travelers, the community would be so different now.
And even the game would probably be a lot different, too.
Even the game. If Logic Mage hadn't joined, it would be different. If I hadn't joined, if so many others in the community hadn't joined, it would have completely shaped the community into a very different landscape than what it ended up being throughout and what it is today.
I know Tora was worried that it was just gonna end up being a lot of like jaded 2B veterans, and that's kind of how it would shape the community to be like very rough and tumble, kind of much more anarchy focused than probably the community ended up being.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Pepsi Boy played much during release, so I think I was the only active 2B player, I wasn't playing at the time, but I'm the only player that kind of had, like, real experience with it by the time release came.
Yeah.
Which was definitely outside of expectations, so.
It's interesting. So, believe it or not, even though the game has been beaten, and we've already recorded the interview with Truga Dude, which came out, like I already mentioned, almost a year ago. Not quite.
Actually, we recorded that shortly after we solved the puzzle, so that would have been like early May.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
The
so
one with Truga Dude?
yeah.
But we only uploaded it on the 11th. Is that right?
No, the last podcast release was the Puppet Master one.
Oh, you're okay. I
So
totally
it
got
was
those mixed
over a
up.
year ago.
Yeah,
You're
it was
right, my
over
bad.
a year
I
ago.
was getting confused with like the main series and just the Puppet Master
Yeah.
video. That technically was a podcast, but it wasn't like a main.
It was kind of a bonus episode. The Travelers podcast kind of concluded with the Turaga Dude interview.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our idea with season 3 was to do more one-off stuff like Puppet Master. And
Yeah.
then, now we're here, so we're talking about whatever. Because there's not as many things happening with the Travelers. It's over, and
Right.
it's our side projects now.
Yeah, but there are still a couple of points to talk about which we think are interesting. One of the points we have here is the fact that the border was in fact broken. Which
Yes.
is something we never ever thought would happen.
So this happened actually quite a while ago. Lightning WB made a video about it. You can watch the video to find out. I forget who exactly found all of it. Lightning was trying to. I think the original idea, the concept was that if you blew up a nuke on the border, would the tiles create like would they overlap with the wall tiles and let you walk on them? That was the theory. And then we tried it and it didn't work. But then I was messing around with it and I realized that if you die and you're on an object, your dead body will spawn not on that object, but on a different object,
Oh.
or on a different coordinate. So if you cover the spot where you are and then like die in the Travelers, you could force your body to spawn on the wall tile. So I think Lightning and I together broke a lot of records by going further, because you could actually go. We never actually hit a limit where you couldn't go anymore. You could keep like dying and making a body and just have a row of bodies allowing you, because when it did the check, it wouldn't check if what the actual terrain was under the object. It would only check if you could go on the object first. And I think that's because of ocean platforms, because obviously you can't go onto water, but you can go on ocean platforms. So because of that bug, we were able to go further into like various directions than we ever had before. When you die in the Travelers, your character is sent to I think 100 or so. I forget how far it is, but you're in the top right corner, like past the wall. We were able to go to that. We found a bunch of visual bugs. It got really messy, but it didn't break the game completely. So I think Lightning and I think I might be the person that's traveled the furthest from spawn total, or maybe Lightning and I both are, because we both have gone up there. But yeah, that was definitely a cool kind of last charade for us to break something in the Travelers.
As I recall, Toro actually had to patch that because it was causing issues with something. I don't remember.
I don't know
exactly
if he
what
did
it was.
patch it, actually.
I don't know if he could patch it. I think he asked them to stop doing it. Am I misremembering?
But I
that?
remember it was causing an issue with the database or something.
was.
Like
I
the
think
fact
it
you were
was, but I
going
don't
that far?
think it actually ended up being fixed.
Yeah, so what I think happened, I think he said he's not, he can't really fix it right now because of Puppet Master and him working on that, and he just kindly asked you to stop, if I'm recalling correctly.
And for the first time in Lightning WB history, it worked.
He is going to pick it back up.
Oh no.
Yeah, now that he hears this, he's
Can you
definitely
block
going to be.
Lightning WB from seeing this video?
There will be renewed interest. Yeah.
Let's hope so.
And yeah, you're right. And in terms of tomfoolery, there hasn't really been much outside of breaking the border, which I think is breaking the border is a good way to cap it off, honestly,
Yeah.
because that's something we've been trying to do for a long time, just like messing with it in different ways.
Ever since pre-release, we've always been wanting to, like, hoping the
Yeah.
story would go in that direction. And
Yeah,
wondering if
there's always been this fascination with either going past or breaking through it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's kind of like, like the far lands in Minecraft. There's a fascination with, like, oh, you keep traveling until you hit a limit, and it's supposedly, like, the great limit that you can't,
Right.
it's obstructing what's behind it. There's a mystery there, and there's intrigue. And I think that, even like, I was kind of hoping that the border would be explained more in the finale of the Travelers, but kind of having that last moment to, like, even if it wasn't, like, intended, breaking through the border was a satisfying kind of post-conclusion to the Traveler's experience.
Mm-hmm.
So Teragadude kind of released this Paceman thing, and it had a lot of really interesting cut content, kind of early concepts that kind of expand upon what's already there. Like, there was some other combat ideas, like he wanted to add grenades and EMP things to stop travelers. And it's really interesting to kind of look at what the early vision for the Traveler was, but
Yeah.
kind of an interesting thing that I would like to talk about today is the cut endings, and I more than one ending, but there are multiple endings to the Traveler that was originally written up in the design doc.
Which, spoilers for the Travelers, if you're still
Spoilers.
planning on playing, if you somehow made it to Season 3, Episode 2, and are concerned about spoilers.
There you go.
The Travelers ends with the world machine. I think you nuke it and you find it at the bottom of your crater, and then it spawns in your inventory after you die from nuking it.
It actually says you detonate a nuke over the location, and in the process you actually kill yourself. But if you have to travel all the way back and then retrieve it.
Yeah.
That's how it ended originally.
Right.
None
of this, by the way, none of this made it into the game. So
Yeah. Like the original, like the ending. Was the world machine ever in the actual game?
No.
Or was it not?
No.
No, the War
No.
Machine.
The world machine spawned in your inventory
Yeah, in
once
the
you built the
actual
nuke.
game.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
but
it-
it's not like this whole process was cut where you kill yourself and then you go back to the
Yeah.
location to get it.
Yeah.
Originally, you'd blow up the nuke and then it would be like at the bottom of the crater. And there were some additional options that you could choose to do once you did this. Call would be the first option that you can do on the world machine, which would summon the aliens who would bring your mind away from the ruined planet and you'd have peace among the stars. That's kind of the official canonical ending that we have now, or
Yeah.
the one ending that we have now. Except you also kind of, your body remains to still wander as well, so you can still play the game and stuff. But that's the ending that exists in the Travelers. But there were some other endings that were cut. One of them was reincarnate. Originally, one of the clues of the game would be to find Teragadude's person in the Travelers.
Like his actual player.
Yeah, like his actual player. And that player would be like the color like a golden yellow. So like that was the only ever plans we've seen to actually have a color other than the monochromatic color scheme in the Travelers.
Yeah.
And then like once you find him, he would like tell you, I don't know if it would be automatic or he actually would tell you through chat like where the next thing was.
I think the reason he ended up cutting the idea is because it wouldn't be automatic. It would have to actually
Right.
be him.
I think
Yeah.
he's realized that if someone wants to play this even 1 or 2 or 3 years down the line, he's gonna have to keep
Yeah.
checking his users so that people can actually progress through
Yeah.
the game. It's just it's a cool idea and concept, but it's just it wouldn't really work out in the long
Yeah.
term.
But then you would have the ability to reincarnate and you would become a golden traveler, which is kind of a cool thing, because now, obviously, if someone finds you, you could tell them the direction to go, or you could mess with them, but also it's kind of a prestigious, oh, I'm golden, I've beaten the game, look how, that's just kind of a cool, status thing to have.
I actually like this footer at the end here where it says the world machine will respawn somewhere in the world at random for anyone to find. So what that implies to me is that you could just stumble across this randomly if someone picked this option. I think that's what that means.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that means only one person can beat the puzzle.
Maybe
true?
it might mean that the previous clue would then point somewhere else, so it's I don't know, but then they would be able to solve it the same way. Maybe
Yeah.
he wasn't thinking about that.
It's
completely.
possible this is just
I
some.
mean, it looks like all the endings here were one person solves it, which I think was originally the idea. I don't know if you remember Logic, but he wanted it to be like one person complete. I don't remember like the exact. Do you not remember?
Um,
Because I remember him like talking about it when he like decided that multiple people could beat it.
that's not actually, I don't think that's true. I recall him talking about how the player who found it first would have a choice, and and I know he also talked about the player who did all the stuff first would there be a little more content for just them, which I'm not sure if that really. We saw that a bit in the pyramids,
Yeah.
but not really anywhere else.
A way I'm interpreting this is that some of the end, like the call one would like
That
the
would
call and the
allow it to keep going, right?
yeah, that would allow it to keep going. I think the reincarnate one, like when I make notes, like I kind of add additional things that I'm like some ideas I have. It could be that it respawns in a different place. That could mean that like the puzzle was intended to go point to a different place, which wouldn't like work really well unless you did it in a certain way.
Yeah.
But it could like be a way to stop you from like reincarnating again and again. Um, but when that, or actually what it probably would mean was that like if you find the golden traveler couldn't just tell you like how to get to the spot, like the coordinates,
Yeah.
but you would have to like kind of solve some of it yourself. That's how I read that, but it could also be that like it's intended to be like once one person does it, they make the final decision. But then there's one last decision, which is cease, which pressing this button will just stop the flow of time and basically shut down the game. So everyone that plays the Travelers and beats it has a choice where basically they can, become a Golden Traveler, they can go out to the aliens, they can shut down the game. And so that's kind of a reason that if you were to beat the game, you wouldn't want people to know because then they might shut down the game. Or maybe you want to know so you can shut down the game. And it would be an interesting choice with weight that affects everyone in the game, which ultimately I think is a really cool idea, but I'm kind of glad it didn't happen.
All these are really cool ideas, but I feel like some of this stuff is, kind of superfluous to the experience.
I think Lightning WB would have definitely shut down the
I
game.
think WB would have 100% used Cease. And it kind of confuses me how Cease plays into the whole story as well, because I thought the point was that they were trying to find like potential people to help them with the problem of like entropy and stuff, because that's the story of the Travelers, right? Is they want to find humans who who have like more ingenuity than themselves.
Yeah, I think the idea though is that maybe it's not just ingenuity they're looking for; it's also the cooperation. So if the person who gets to it refuses to cooperate and just freezes everything, do they want them anyway?
I guess that also depends. Like, does it freeze Earth or like the universe completely?
I would assume just like the game, right? Like the whole scenario.
Yeah, maybe it's like the scenario. I'm kidding. Let's not talk about the scenario. But yeah, so there's some really cool cut content that you can check out in the pay spin.
Yeah, there's way more than what we just mentioned.
There's a lot more. It was really interesting to see when it was dropped, and yeah, it's been cool to like check all of that out. Okay, so the last time you've heard about this, you probably know it as the Travelers Plus. However, it has since rebranded to the Travelers Live. The reason for that is that we can't get .plus as like a URL, but we can get .live. So like getting people to remember the Travelers.live is easier than getting them to remember like the Travelers Plus whatever. And it kind of flows a little bit better. It sounds like something original. We had a lot of ideas on like why we would make that change, but currently, I think Lightning has the IP down right now, but it will be normally up. The Travelers.live will redirect you to a website that has kind of information and a server browser where you can see things that are existing. So it's launched. I actually don't even think I think it was an idea when we talked about it, but I don't think it was actually like something that you could play.
Do you want to talk about like what it actually is? Because I'm sure there's some people listening to this who have no idea.
It's also been a year since the last time we've talked about the Travelers. So basically, we played the Travelers. We thought it was really, really cool, but we also thought it had a lot of potential and a lot of things that we could add to it. So Lightning WB and I and Coherent Nonsense and Slippy and a lot of other people decided to reverse engineer it. So Lightning made an engine called Text Bullet, and then we made a plugin to run on that engine that basically emulates the Travelers in Node.js, which is different than the language it was originally written in. But using that, you can run a server that other people can connect to that is like 90% similar to the Travelers. It doesn't have the puzzle, it doesn't have it, like, that stuff, but as far as like events and tools and things like that, it is near identical to. There's still certain things that need to be worked out, but it's very, very close to the Travelers, and it is moddable. So the idea is that you can host your own Travelers experience and either like, change some things in the config to make a different experience, or develop mods for it and completely turn it into a brand new experience. So kind of the first showing off of this was the Enduro Games tournament. We had one Enduro Games built in the actual Travelers, where me and Lightning built a massive wall, and then we got everyone down there and had them, like, we had items hit around the map, we had items in the center, and it was basically like Hunger Games. Like, you'd go out, you'd kill people, and then you'd go back in.
Yeah.
We had some technical difficulties with the Enduro tournament because we hosted it on Lightning's computer, but then Lightning's computer didn't have great Wi-Fi.
Lightning was like uploading half a megabyte every 5
Oh,
years.
boy.
I don't know why he ever thought that was a good idea.
It was a bit of a rough start, I'm going to be honest, but it ended up being fun in the long run. I really wish we could have made it a little bit smoother to kind of show off and get people like onto the idea of this being a cool thing. But
I did die within the first like 60 seconds of unknown causes, but from what I did see, yeah, it's pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, my only qualms with like the event itself, I feel like it was way too long.
yeah,
I was able to sit down and watch a 45-minute episode of Doctor Who and be unaffected by the border, which, I mean, it's cool that it can be that long, but
it probably was not good for an event. I think you could have a like even multi-day event in the Travelers that works well, but not for something where it's like, okay, everyone, are you free from this time to this time? Let's all sit in a Discord call. And we learned a lot from it. It was definitely not smooth, but I think it was a valuable experience. We learned a lot from it. We got some bug fix things from it, and it kind of kicked off what the Travelers Live is now.
And I do think overall it was a good kickoff. I
Yeah.
definitely have my personal problems with it, but I thought it was a really cool idea.
There were some problems. There were some technical difficulties, but it was a cool experience. My brother won. My dad played it. That was pretty cool.
I remember that.
And I think my brother won. He beat Slippy, and I forget. Maybe it was Reality Admin was another one. I forget who all was like the finalists. But,
I'm not sure.
Slippy has like the near winning POV on his channel.
Or wait, didn't Slippy win?
Maybe Slippy
I
did.
think Slippy did win.
I don't know.
I think his POV on his channel is his victory footage.
Maybe it is. Oh no, but I thought he dropped a landmine. I forget.
Well,
You'll have to watch Slippy's video to find out. We'll plug his channel. We'll support my boy. Support your local.
Or we'll just
bagels.
put text on the screen that explains the whole thing.
Bram will probably do that. But also watch Slippy's
God
videos.
only knows.
I will hold Bram liable to that. Don't worry. And then there was the Enduro Dome. Do you want to talk
Yes.
about that?
Okay. So no one played the Enduro Dome except me. But I really like the Enduro Dome. I have a Chromebook. I had one for my school. I'm not in high school anymore, but I was. And every day during math, I would like play the Enduro Dome. It had some really cool ideas. It had a smaller map, which and interesting like it had interesting terrain changes. So like islands were no longer ovals, but they were like interesting shapes, and there were like a few oceans that have different islands. It was really interesting to like plan out where you want to build your base, and then also interesting to plan out where you're going to get resources, because certain land masses have certain resources that you can obtain from them, but you need to figure out how you can protect that and protect it from other people, and also like have it accessible so you don't have to like spend ages to go to it, because you need to like get your resources and everything like that. There's a lot of cool features. There's turrets, there's spikes. It really showed off a lot of what was interesting about innovating on the Travelers, because the Travelers as it is now, the normal version, it doesn't have a lot of like base building mechanics. You're kind of meant to be traveling around. You're kind of not meant to be doing much more than traveling around. So now that the puzzle's over, there's not a lot to do. But there is you can create a base and defenses and all that stuff in the Enduro Dome, and it's actually a lot of fun to do. So me and Slippy got over a big fight over a turret at spawn. There's some interesting things. I raided Lightning's base a few times. It was fun. And I made it my own base that I need to check in. I haven't checked it in a little bit. But it was pretty fun while it lasted. Not a lot of people ended up getting into it, which I think is because of a few reasons. One being a story. It doesn't have a story, and I feel like that's what personally drew me into the Travelers initially.
Mm.
And then also like kind of no long-term like gameplay goal. It kind of suffers from the same thing where like you're collecting resources to build something to protect your resources so you can, it's kind of an infinite resource collection thing.
I think as of now, a lot of people are just kind of done with the Travelers, at least for
Yeah.
like the time being. Is it's been a long commitment to
Yeah.
like we've been playing this game for a very long time. I think people have forgotten like
Yeah.
how lengthy of a period it's been.
I
But
mean,
I'd be totally
for
down.
us two, it's been like 2.5 years.
Yeah, I've been playing this since at least 2019, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just this is probably one of the longest term like kind of experiences I've ever had with
Yeah.
the game, which is strange. But yeah, I'm totally down to play something that's more like maybe narrative focused, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, and something that's more like well realized, which I think is a good way to segue to the after.
Well, I want to talk about the Enduro a little bit more
Okay.
because for me, after the Travelers kind of was released, I really felt like I wanted more because I felt like and I'll talk about this more at like the very end, the final retrospective, but I felt like it had so much potential left to give, and playing like the Enduro wasn't nearly as big as the Travelers in any sense of the word, but it felt really good to be able to like kind of put time into something, and like it felt a little bit like it wasn't exactly the same. I'm not saying that, but it felt a little bit like the earlier days of the Travelers, where like you're doing things that feel like you're taking screenshots and like exploring a world. You feel like you're like kind of putting your mark onto it.
There's a constant sense of discovery when you're like
Yeah.
dealing with that.
It reminded me kind of like early, like it was kind of like like similar to the Chipper Wall, where it felt like I'm building something here.
Yeah.
And like I'm naming my base this thing, and I'm having this altercation here, and it was cool to have those things and see the new mechanics being made.
Early Travelers, and especially Purely Travelers, was really exciting because every update was like brought a lot of cool
Yeah.
changes and like new events and stuff, and those were always really fun to comb through. So I think
Definitely.
it definitely created a similar vibe for some people.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, there was a lot of travelers fatigue in the community, and it wasn't for everyone, but I personally really enjoyed it. I recommend it. I don't know if Lightning will still host it or not. I'm pretty sure he will, but I thought it was a really cool way to kind of get more travelers out of it, which the normal game was kind of incapable of producing at that point. However, the Enduro Dome has pretty much stopped development. I know Lightning has a few other ideas he might want to get to, but he's probably not going to continue development unless there's like really big demand or he changes his mind or something like that. However, I've been working on a pet project, oh gosh, for a very long time. I think I've been like conceptualizing it way back, like pretty much as soon as we beat the Travelers. And I've been working on it like, kind of in the background, like of my school and other things. I haven't been like, like Taragadooding it where I like use every living like spare second I have to work on it. Like it's a casual project I'm working on. It is. And I would actually like to get more people involved to kind of speed up that process a little bit. But the after is my pride and joy, my spiritual successor to the Travelers. I've released actually a few pre-alpha builds of it to the public, which you've been able to play, but there's a lot more going on outside of that. I guess first, do you want to talk about what the public has seen of the after?
Yeah, so it's a narrative focused expansion of the Travelers. There is new content and new features, but a lot of it is focused on the story, which I think is cool. And it is probably Vanilla Travelers' strongest aspect, I think, is the writing. I think Truga is a very talented writer, if nothing else. Maybe I think as the creator of the mod, you probably
Yes, I
better at
definitely agree
explaining
with
this.
that.
Yeah.
The narrative is definitely something that I wanted to focus on a lot, and it's a big focus of it. It's not the only focus though, because I do think there's a lot of mechanical potential too. But the story of the after is going to be completely different than the Travelers. It's like not the same universe. It's not like a sequel. It's not anything like that. It's a different story. It's very much a spiritual successor. Currently, they are like I think the first release. I had like some new houses that and like events and things like that that kind of started introducing the new lore. The intro text was different, kind of getting people interested in it. But I kind of realized that like there wasn't real like there was new. I actually could see like how many people went to the new events, and like not many of the people that played actually went to the new events that I had written. Like a very few people had actually seen the new content that I had put into the game, and I'd realized that like there needed to be more in order for people to be interested in my story. There needed to be more up to the travelers. It couldn't just be travelers, but with different events. It had to be something more than that. And so I've been thinking and brainstorming, and just like basically for I don't know, it's been like a year or so. I
You've
think
been
I've
working on
been
this for
working
a
on.
long time, dude.
I've been working on it for a very long time. Again, in the background, so like it's like casually for a long time, but I've been putting a lot of thought into kind of what works in the Travelers, what doesn't work in the Travelers, what works with the story, what doesn't, what works with the mechanics, what doesn't. And I've kind of another game that has really inspired me since playing the Travelers is it's a website called yourworldoftext.com. And basically, it's like if you made an infinite notepad document and then you made it like multiplayer. And so anyone can type anywhere, but it takes like time to actually scroll to places. So you can make ASCII art, you can type notes, you can do whatever. Other people can erase it or overwrite what you've done. But it's really interesting to explore like what people have made, because people make lines, people make art, people write notes, people do so much crazy stuff. And even without any natural terrain, it's so interesting to go around and look at all of the things that people created. And I've kind of was of the opinion that like, oh, how to like base building isn't super interesting in the Travelers. It's not interesting to the coolest thing I've probably seen done was the Sonic hole art that Logic made.
I forgot about that.
But no one's done anything with that in a really long time, because there's not like it's like really hard to do, and there's not really a big payoff
It
to
is
like
a pain, and it
making.
takes a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also like limits with what you can build with, because you've got like plus signs and hashtag signs and like O's, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But with your world of text, you could place any character that you want to, and it really opened the doors and like let me see like like I was playing it. It's actually fun to create things in that system, and so I thought that kind of marrying the Traveler system with the your world of text system could create something that's really cool. And so that's kind of what the next update of the After was, which was basically I made a system where it's the Travelers, but you can type on the screen and kind of have something appear. It doesn't take resources or anything. It was like creative mode basically, like kind of the early versions of Minecraft. But I have a lot of plans for that, and I'm not sure how much I should say. Hold on, does anyone have a coin on them? Maybe I'll flip a coin and I'll give some spoilers depending on what the answer is. Okay, I have a quarter. Logic Mage, heads or tails?
Say tails.
Tails. Tails, I will talk about what's next for the After.
Alright.
Let's see where it is.
Well, take two.
No, that's tails.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just a weird quarter. Okay, so I'm gonna make Brambley put some footage on screen.
You guys didn't see, but it dropped on the floor.
It dropped on the floor.
That's why
and
there
it
was some
tails.
confusion.
We'll do a live reenact.
Do a live reenaction.
So the After was before I move on to talking about like the future plans I have, like the grand unveiling, because like not a lot of people in the community know about what I am planning for the After. But before that, would you like to say anything about like what I've talked about so far?
I mean, I can't speak too much on the design and like gameplay. I know I've seen a lot of it, but I think more what I felt more familiar with was the story. I do just really want to attest to the fact that I think it is a really, really cool story. And I'm really excited to see it get off the ground.
For sure. I do like a lot of what I've seen from the After. What I'm really excited about is I think some of the stuff you're going to be talking about in a few moments. That's really what I remember just seeing that for the first time. I was like, wow, that really blew my socks off, because I was not expecting what you were about to show me. So I think this is definitely like the logical evolution of the Travelers. Like this is kind of what, if this had like 2 or 3 more years of development time, this is kind of what it probably would have been developed into. And this is, it was partly, I almost want to say like cathartic to see, because maybe that's not the right word for it, but it was something that I've always kind of envisioned. Not exactly, but it's something that I've envisioned when the game was in pre-release. That's the kind of things that could be added when kind of like the sky was the limit. So I'm very excited to see it come out, and I'm sure you want to
Yeah.
talk more about it.
So, where do I start? Okay. For quite a long time, I've been talking about how cool it would be to make the Travelers three-dimensional. And I think every time I've talked about this, everyone I've explained it to has thought I was absolutely crazy and could not envision at all what I was talking about. I know I've talked to Toronto. I remember specifically I was in a VC with like Bram, Logic, Taragadude, and some other people, and we're talking about the Travelers. And I was like, I think it'd be really, really cool if we made it 3D. And I kind of explained what I wanted to go for, and the VC went silent. No one talked for like a minute afterwards.
Because no one, I mean, like you had a really clear idea, but no one could even conceptualize what you wanted to do. It was very obtuse for everybody.
It was hard to conceptualize. Plus, I'm sure it was like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And
It was one of those like late night chats, I'm sure.
But I knew that like my idea was good, but I knew people like weren't getting it, and I think that's what motivated me to like just create it so that I could show people and be like, look at this. This is what I'm talking about.
see, this is why I say I don't get it to you all the time.
You're trying to motivate me.
Exactly.
Oh no. Okay, well I guess it's effective, but I guess I'll put some footage on. I'll make Brambley put some footage on screen right now. And I'm gonna kind of like I'll record this later and then send it to him, so like I can match it to what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's putting his thumbs up right now. He's so happy.
He's so ready.
He's so happy with me. Okay. First thing is color. I think that adding color to differentiate different tiles from other tiles that are the same character is going to be very valuable to kind of having like more tiles and allow you to build more interestingly. But this is a prototype that I have, a prototype client for the After. And what you are now seeing, hopefully, is three-dimensional travelers. Basically, what I can do is with the JavaScript canvas, instead of normal like, kind of rows and columns of HTML, I can make the characters be printed at any specific coordinate on the screen that I want to, and then I can have them rotate in 3 dimensions so that you can see them. You can see them stacked on top of each other, in parallel to other things, all that stuff. And then what you can do is you can click on a tile and you can type like you can in the normal After, like the 2-dimensional After, and you can build things with text in 3 dimensions. You can kind of move your 2-dimensional plane through the 3-dimensional plane to like use it as a your world of text typing thing, except you can use it to construct 3-dimensional buildings. So you can use different colored characters and different materials to actually create like a house that is made of text but is also 3D in the Travelers. And I think this makes building so much more interesting and fun and adds so many possibilities to the Travelers. And I don't know what else to say about it, but I think it's really cool. Just looking at it makes me really excited. Is there anything that you guys would like to add?
Did you mention the colors?
I did mention the colors.
Yeah. Well, I really am glad seeing you so excited about this. I know you wanted to talk about this for a long time, and now's this.
Yeah,
the
Official reveal.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really think the colors really make it pop, and it's just so cool seeing like the 3D slices.
It's so. I can totally see why I couldn't conceptualize this before, because it's so just alien and straight. I've never seen a game control like that, or even like a simulator control like that. But I'm really interested to see what it turns into, and it could be really cool.
I've never seen 3-dimensional text-based art done. Like ASCII art is like pretty well known.
Yeah, for sure.
I've never seen it done in this way before.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe someone has created it, but I feel like I'm really striking on something that is unique and new.
Yeah.
And I'll even give you a little bit. Should I talk about the skybox? Okay. There's some rough ideas that I want to add very soon. I'll give like I have some MS Paint, like really crude concept art, but basically because it is a JavaScript canvas, I can do a lot more visually than would ever be possible with just like kind of the basic divs and all that stuff with HTML. Because I am thinking of change, like right now it kind of has like a very like basic color things. You have like kind of a distinct green and a distinct red, but I think I'm going to tone down the colors and make them much more realistic. Something similar to Slippy's like color texture pack, where like, you know, like a grass will be the color that you would actually probably see grass, like the color it would actually be in the world. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make there be a horizon. So the ground will also be a color, or even maybe like kind of a noise texture that extends into the background, into a horizon. So when you move around the camera, you can see the ground moving up and down based on where you have it. And then, you know, there'll also be like stuff in the sky, like there'll be like clouds, and these will be like actual textures, like things that are drawn and then are like printed onto the screen. So it'll be text based, but there will also be drawn textures as the background. So it'll be text overlaid onto like an actual visual like image. And that will, you know, change based on how you're rotating and stuff like that. And then things, you'll be able to see things in the distance, like the monument. You can see it in the distance, reaching up into the sky. And it'll get bigger as you get closer to it. And then as you get closer, it'll fade into like the actual 3D text version of it. You'll be able to like see houses and cities in the distance, even like players. You can see them in the distance. You can see mountains. I'd like to be able to see like certain terrain features like oceans and mountains and things like that be visible from the skybox. So like something in the Travelers is a lot of the fun in an open world game comes from like seeing something interesting in the distance and deciding to go towards it and then encountering cool things on the way. But in the Travelers, you can't see into the distance. You can just kind of see like around you. And you like around you is a distance because it's like 15 kilometers. But most of the time when you're traveling, you're just going in a random direction.
Yeah,
You're
so
not like
there's not a lot of like visual feedback that the game
Yeah.
gives you.
But with this, like you can see something that looks interesting and you can move towards it. And I'm hoping that it will make kind of an immersive experience where you can like feel like you're in the game. And also different things you'll be able to see from different like distances away. So like maybe a house, you'll have to be like, you know, closer to see it. Then you'll have to see a city, and then a player, you'll have to be closer to see them. And then I could even make it so like if you build a really big tower, maybe like there could be something that represents that in the horizon.
That was something you were telling me about that I really liked, where it's like, you know, if you build a big tower, that's, you know, you're more likely to see it from a distance than you would something else. And then there could be a dynamic where at the top of a tower you have a much greater view of the horizon,
Yeah.
like a general area.
If your
But
height,
as a consequence, you also are making yourself easier to see because the tower is like now a landmark that other people can travel to.
definitely. I think just like kind of making it 3D and then adding that skybox, which was inspired actually by playing the game. What was it? Spiritfarer has a similar thing because it has like a 2D boat with things in the background. I'm not gonna go too far into that, but having that kind of like images being scaled in the background on top of like kind of like a horizon, and also something else I could do is like the skybox could be different based on the environments you're in to kind of sell the environment more. Like if you're in the middle of the ocean, or maybe like, you know, it's in the middle of the night versus the day, I could have like an actual atmospheric day-night cycle. I could have like, obviously this is all going to need a lot of work and development, but there's so much potential here to kind of add on to making it feel like a three-dimensional space that you're traveling through, and you can aim at something and go towards it. And I think it will really like change how the Travelers can be played and just really take advantage of all of the potential that it has.
That was
We all looked at each other.
it was a little long-winded, but yeah.
Sorry.
No, I
You
thought
can
you're
cut
good.
that down if you want, Bramblely.
I
talk
like
a
hearing
lot.
you enthusiastic.
I do too. So yeah.
Maybe speed it up too.
Speed it up at 2 times. Yeah, that sounded great. So yeah, with that, we are nearing the about 1 hour and what am I trying to say here? 1 hour and a half. Are there any other final thoughts you guys have before we sign off what is potentially one of the last podcasts we're gonna do?
Don't say that. That makes me sad. We're doing this 10-year anniversary podcast. Come on, look forward to it.
Yeah, no, I think we touched on a lot. I don't know if we have too much else to say.
Yeah.
I might give. I don't know. Do you want to do a final retrospective, like some final thoughts?
We give a final retrospective,
Okay.
like travelers and whatnot.
Yeah.
We did kind of touch on it earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree that, like, in the moment, like, I don't know if I verbally agreed, but they said, it's one of the best gaming experiences they've had. I also very much agree with that statement.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know. I think Logic said he doesn't really have anything comparable, but for me, like, I had to be 2T, and
Yep.
like, I look back at a lot of that, like, and regret a lot of it. I regret staying as long as I did for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then I had maybe a similar experience with Dead by Daylight, and again with that, I feel like I kind of burnt myself out on it, but then kept playing just because I didn't know what else to, like, play in my free time. But with this, I don't feel like I hit that point. Like, I feel like I engaged with the game in a good manner, and
Yeah.
I don't feel like there was ever a point where I genuinely wasn't having fun, especially because so much of it was built around the community. And when we were having slow moments, if I wanted to get everyone together, I could engineer some kind of, you know,
A community event. Yeah, it's
community
not
event.
even just like outside of the game. We always had like, movie nights and all that
Yeah.
stuff that was it was stuff that was born out of this community being really cool and like interactive and stuff. It wasn't all just the travelers, right? It was
Yeah.
definitely the people backing it that made it very special. I know you mentioned the only comparable thing being like 2B or Anarchy games. That's not something I can really claim to have personal experience to, but when Truga Dude was still making 2B videos, that's kind of how I know he mentioned this when he was still active too, is that it's interesting that other people kind of like live vicariously through that, or they
Yeah.
kind of experience the game through someone else's eyes, and that's kind of how they live out their own experience. Um, yeah, 2B's just kind of it was a little like out there for me. I wasn't, but what I was mainly interested in was the community is one thing, but it's also just the history behind it, which is so fascinating to me. Like the fact that there's the same game has been running for years, and there's potentially like
Yeah.
stuff way out there that no one's ever found, and like it has such a historic value to it.
I feel like a lot of people look at 2B2T as like one cohesive story.
Yeah.
Because of like fit, and I'm sure in some part Taraga Dude helped
Right.
contribute.
A lot of the narrative behind it's been homogenized. This is getting. I mean, this
Yeah.
would be good for another podcast. But yeah, this is that one thing that Troy was talking about in his like final like real video where he talked about like the I can't remember the quote he had now, but he had it on the screen where it's like the true story of 2B2T
Yeah.
is like your own experience or whatever.
Exactly. There's so many like lived experiences on that server, and I
Yeah.
feel like
It's just like real life, right? Where there's no like one like true perspective to it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the unfortunate effect of having like a bunch of YouTubers is that they're going to be the ones who like tell the story, and then despite like even if they have like wrong information or whatever, or even just outside of like, it's despite everything, like you could be as unbiased as you want, but it's always going to be like one singular perspective.
but I think that's the one part 2B2T Taraga Dude really nailed
Mhm.
was the community aspect, and I don't know if he was
Absolutely.
necessarily aiming for that either.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like nailing the community aspect of 2B2T, I know he wanted a community aspect, but I don't know if it was like a conscious realization. I don't know if he knows how much he pulled from 2B2T.
For sure. I think he always wanted we were talking about this before the podcast even started too, where it's definitely ended up skewing in a direction that was less anarchy and more like community focused.
Yeah.
I know he designed this in such a way that people could compete, and like it was built in such a way that it could be very
Yeah, even
like,
the final thing was like meant for like one or like just a few people.
yeah,
to
that was
get to.
that was intention from the beginning. And that's why, it's surprising that stuff like fighting never really came into a huge effect. Like you can fight other players, but it's not like hugely emphasized, right? Because there's always like there's very deep punishments for it.
The only
So-
time fights would happen was like there was like 2 times where it was, and they were used like very well, like the chipper wall and the
For sure.
the atomic war
Yeah.
was like some of the most exciting points of it. But it wasn't like you'd meet up with someone and then like, oh, I'm gonna
you're gonna rip
yeah.
them up, yeah.
yeah.
No, that's fighting is always like a last resort kind of thing, and by design.
Mhm.
It's interesting, and yeah, I mean, just to close, I think.
Well, actually, do you mind if I give a final retrospective too?
Well, let me just wrap up,
Okay,
and then
you got it.
yeah, you can go because I'm almost done. I just think it's been a really cool experience. I'm very glad I got to meet you guys, especially
Definitely.
through this. The Travelers has been very unique. It's been, there's definitely been some ups and downs, but I think it's been a very valuable gaming experience. I had to thank Truga for creating it because it definitely, this is just such another concept. Without this, would be no community. There'd be no enduro tournaments or domes or the afters, and yeah, I'm just really glad to be a part of all this.
I definitely agree. And like since playing the Travelers, I've kind of been trying to chase the high of the Travelers. I think that's why I'm so dedicated to kind of making a spiritual successor.
Yeah.
Is because I've been like trying to get into a lot of text-based games and stuff like that. And I'm still going to keep trying to, but none of them have captivated me like how the short stories in the Travelers have, where they're kind of connected by this puzzle and this world. And I think even greater than that is the Travelers has served as a platform for us to kind of create our own stories. Like, the Chipper Wall, Lightning WB, and everything that he is. But Lightning WB ended up being like teaming with us and redeeming his villain side and all that in the end. And just all of the stuff that we can have. Like I can talk to people that have no idea what the Travelers is and just like explain some of the best gaming
Yeah.
moments I've ever had.
There's so many stories, Like I've never played a video game
Yeah.
that has. There's so many like community-led stories that have like developed very naturally from just this very basic framework.
Yeah.
Which is where I feel like he really pulled from 2B2T.
For
Again,
sure,
I
I
don't know
agree.
if it was intentional, but he definitely
And
did.
that's
It
why there's so
nailed
much.
many of the same aspects. Yeah.
That's why there's so much value in 2B, even still, because there's just so many stories, right? There's so
Yeah.
much. That's why there's so many. There's such a huge like YouTube community around it, because there's so many like interesting things to pull from, stuff like people and like events to talk about. And even though the community was like really really small in comparison to that, it's astonishing how many like little things and like bits there are to talk about and like examine that came out of this game.
I've never had like a gaming experience where I feel like I could sit down with someone that knows nothing about it and like it would be an interesting story to tell them. Like I have told people about the Chipper War. Like I've never had that before. And it's really, I think that's what the Travelers shines as. It is a platform that we've built on top of, and it's just has been an incredible gaming experience. We've said it all at this point, but thank you to everyone that has made the Travelers what it is.
Yeah.
It has been some of my favorite moments just on the internet and in life in general, and it's been an absolute blast.
Yeah, I just thought of this since you mentioned being able to sit down and tell anyone. I just kind of made this connection. I used to tell my brothers about like 2B2T and like random stories, and they loved it. They like knew who I was talking to. They knew like all the dumb stories, and then that kind of stopped once I stopped playing. But they know about the Travelers. They know about like the Chipper War, the Atomic War. Like they know those stories as well, and they liked hearing them. And it's just cool,
Yeah.
It's not something you get very often.
For sure.
Because like in some ways, like we were all characters in a story, And
Definitely.
So yeah, thank you all once again. This is Logic Mage,
Super QGS.
Bramblery.
and we are signing off. Thank you once again for listening to the Travelers podcast. See ya.
Peace,
Bye.
peace.